Today's webinar is titled How Hoem Associates Transformed Their Change Order and T&M Process for Faster Approvals and Better GC Relationships. Change orders impact everyone's business, and having a technology in place to improve efficiency, cash flow, and profit is simply good business. The Clearstory team has the solution, and they are going to share with you a real-life example today. Clearstory team, please begin the presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And thanks for having us. Appreciate Starnet inviting us and looking forward to the conversation today. So I'll share a few slides and then we'll get going. Just want to double check everyone can see the slides there. Awesome. Well, again, really the point of today is to really highlight Hoem Associates and how they've used Clearstory and the impact on their business, and really just give a brief overview of Clearstory for those who aren't familiar. So my background, I'm an account representative with Clearstory. I spent about 13 years on the general contractor side before joining Clearstory. Actually got the opportunity to work with Hoem Associates on some high profile projects in the San Francisco Bay Area, and joined Clearstory really early on and felt very strong about the opportunity to kind of improve the communication around change orders and ultimately getting change order risk off jobs faster. So, John?
Yeah, I'm John Rowley. I'm one of the owners here at Hoem Associates and also the CFO. So that's sort of my viewpoint and lens into working with the software.
Sure. And just a quick agenda, we'll really just do a quick background on Clearstory, on Hoem Associates, talk about some of the industry challenges that tie into Clearstory. John will share a little on how kind of they look and evaluate technology, highlight a specific job that they use Clearstory with, and then hopefully leave 5-10 minutes for Q&A at the end. So, John?
Yeah, so real briefly on our business, Hoem Associates was incorporated back in 1979. We are one of the earliest members of Starnet. I don't believe we're a founding member, but we've been with Starnet for a real long time. We're one of the largest commercial flooring contractors in the Bay Area, and we do the majority of our work, 90% or so of our work, through general contractors. So that's a little bit of background on sort of, again, kind of where we position ourselves.
Sure. And a little background on Clearstory. We're only about a 5-6 year old company. So started out here in the Bay Area, worked with predominantly subcontractors the first few years. Really wanted to make sure there was a ton of value there and it was easy to use before we had general contractors start to invite subcontractors to use the tool. Hopefully, if you're not currently using Clearstory, you've at least seen it from a few general contractors, but really wanted to build a tool that helped everyone. The way we look at change orders, every stakeholder should have a mutual interest to get the risk off the job. Obviously, subcontractors ultimately want to get paid for the change orders, but GCs also have a mutual interest to get the risk up to the owner quickly and off the job quickly as well. And we've had good luck. Obviously, a ton of our customers are flooring subcontractors. And I think about 15 or so Starnet members are currently customers as well. So really wanted to highlight some of the challenges around, change orders and out of contract work. And the way we look at it, there's portions of this that are in your control as the subcontractor. Those are things like how fast are we processing change orders? How fast are we getting cost surface to the general contractor or the customer? Also, quality of documentation, right? When we do get a change order over, do they need to come back and ask us a lot of questions, or is it pretty clear, especially if it's T&M work? Can they clearly see what happened in the field with pictures, clear documentation? How are you directed to do the work? And then there's portions of this that's out of your control, right? Once you lob it over to the GC, it could go in their black hole of an inbox sometimes. So we really took an approach of how do we add value and better communicate that. So we'll touch a little on what a collaborative live change order log is and how that can hopefully help the communication with the general contractor side or the customer side, and ultimately help them get the risk up to the owner off the job as fast and easy as possible as well. And the last thing I'll mention on is just visibility, right? If any of your change order process involves email, Excel sheets, paper tickets out in the field, we really looked at all those and how could we streamline those to make them more efficient for your team, but also have instant visibility for someone like John, so he can have a live view of what's happening across all his jobs or what his teams are sending to their customers as well.
Yeah,
John,
yeah, I'll talk a little bit about some impacts here. Just to give a little bit more background on kind of where we came from before we jumped in with Clearstory. Everything Greg just said is really how we process tags in our business. It was paper tags out in the field. And, over time, we ran into every issue that you can experience, sort of doing things that way, from tags getting lost or tags taking weeks at times to get back to the office, coming back in poor shape where things are ripped or torn or kind of shredded. And then tags stacking up on a PM's desk, right? And sort of becoming like a mountain of things that, as somebody who's an executive in the company, or walking by an office and you're like, why are these all backed up, right? And not really knowing what that means from an executive perspective. Is that worth $5,000 or is that worth $50,000? What's sitting on your desk right now? So that's sort of where we were before we jumped in with Clearstory. And then talking about some of the impacts here, obviously revenue at risk, right? You lose money for work that you've completed if you don't go out there and take care of asking for it the right way. On the cash flow side of things, I don't think I need to explain to everybody that cash flow is a big deal in our industry. And we'll get into it later, sort of the timeline here, but utilizing Clearstory has allowed us to shave literally months off the turnaround time that we expect to see from the time that we execute tag in the field to the time that we get paid for it. And then sort of more globally, when you look at the strained customer relationship piece, I think we've all been in the position probably of having to kind of go to bat to try to get change orders granted by a general contractor. And the more often that's happening, and the more forceful you need to be to try to go out and protect your business and get paid for the work you've done, the more pressure it puts on that relationship. And so the Clearstory tool has allowed us to release a lot of that tension by providing the general contractor with everything that they could possibly be looking for to go to bat for us to the owner. Here, and we're going to talk a little bit about sort of our process for bringing a new technology into our company. First and foremost, right, we're all looking for things that are going to help us create revenue or save money, right? Drive money to our bottom line. So we'll start there. I think the value proposition of Clearstory is very evident. I don't think there's an easier way to sort of contribute to your bottom line than to simply get paid for the work that you're already doing, right? You don't have to go out and do anything new. You're just simply getting paid for the work that your company is already doing, and ideally getting paid for 100% of that. Then secondarily for us, right, there's a time component, right? So if you figure out that, hey, I think this software can save us money or make us money, but how long is it going to take for us to get on board with it? How much time is it going to take us in the long run? Is it going to consistently be a longer process than what we're doing to date? And on that front, Clearstory, checks the box for us as well. At the end of the day, it saves us time. It doesn't just speed up the process, but it literally saves time for our project managers to be able to price out the tags and send out that COR. And then on the implementation side of things, I do think it's really important for Clearstory or for any technology that if you're going to make the choice to bring it into your company, then obviously it's a sort of fully committed decision. I think you need to have a champion to carry the torch for bringing the technology in and sort of implementing it throughout your company. You need to be committed to doing what it takes to get your team up to speed. I know in talking to the Clearstory team, they'll have companies that decide to bring Clearstory in, and then they don't want to pay for an hour or two of their guys' time to sit there and learn the technology, right? And so it's sort of self-defeating at that point. If you're not going to commit to doing what it takes to get your team up to speed, right, you're not going to end up reaping the benefits. And then for us, just ripping the Band-Aid, we just, like I kind of, like I'm explaining here, going full in, we just went and took the paper tags out from downstairs and just didn't allow any workarounds for anybody. Because in the first week it was, well, we still need a paper tag on this job because that's how they've been doing it. Or this guy, you know, he's not very good with his phone, so he just doesn't want to do it. So we just had to tell everybody, like, this is it, no bones about it. So those would be my recommendations for sort of putting it into place.
Sure. And when we created Clearstory, we really wanted to focus on a tool that was very easy and quick to implement, and you started seeing value quickly. You know, a lot of times with flooring subcontractors, it's almost like an aha moment, like John mentioned. You know, they can be a little hesitant, but the day one or day two when they do that first T&M tag or go from an Excel change order log to a collaborative shared log with your GC, you can hopefully start seeing the value very quickly, and definitely rely on the Clearstory team to guide you through the implementation as well. So,
okay, we're going to dive into a project for us to kind of spotlight the impact that Clearstory has made for us. And this was a project that actually we kind of walked into within the first month of bringing Clearstory into our company. We started running with this Bain job and very quickly figured out that we were going to have a massive floor prep issue in front of us. And so quickly here on the bullets, you're going to see that we got 100% of our change order requests approved. And in total, we had over $336,000 worth of change orders on the job. Majority of that was for floor prep and then floor floating across four floors at the business. And then sort of the last one, here's my favorite, right? We had 26 approved change order requests. That encompassed 108 photos and substantiated over 1,600 hours worth of work. And as all of you out there, I'm sure know, you know, building owners aren't excited to pay for floor prep, right? It's always a difficult conversation. As you know, we can't price it when you're doing a TI job and you're not able to see the condition of the subfloor. You know, you don't know what you're getting into. And in this situation, we were getting into something that was pretty rough. Clearstory, and specifically the use of photos and the seamless kind of integration of the photos into our CORs really allowed us to put all the normal questions that we would get in this kind of situation to bed. We were able to provide the GC with everything that they could ask for to go and kind of make that presentation up to the client for them. And we really saw very little pushback in a situation where I can almost guarantee this would have ended up in a negotiation otherwise, right? And so if you look at that and you think, oh, you know, maybe we would have got 75 cents on the dollar, 80 cents on the dollar, 85 cents on the dollar, you're looking at losing $30,000 to $70,000 off of the 336 that we were eventually awarded. And so I think that kind of speaks for itself there.
yeah. And we talk about it all the time. You know, flooring subcontractors have the unfortunate option to be on the job at the end when a lot of other trades have already been in there beating up the floors, right? So, you know, T&M and change orders can just be a bigger part of revenue or a specific project. And, you know, coming from the GC side, you guys are all working with varying levels of project managers from your customer side. So you want to not rely on how organized they are, and almost make it so crystal clear that if I'm a GC and I'm an owner and I'm looking at this, I can see exactly what work was completed with photos. I can see how I was directed. So it's very crystal clear that, you know, the work was completed. And also, you know, pricing it quickly, right, John? You know, the faster you can take that T&M work and convert it into a change order, probably the better chance of getting it in that month's pay app or the next month's pay app versus 2 or 3 months down the road to avoid, you know, even delays in payment as well. So we'll touch on a few metrics, kind of how John, you know, evaluates since implementing Clearstory, and we'll touch on, you know, processing time, percent of T&M tags that are getting billed for, and then processing time.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah, so processing time, right? We've gone from from the average time, probably taking 2 weeks from the time that we executed a tag in the field to the time that a PM was sending out a COR to a customer to doing that the same day in the vast majority of circumstances now. And that's simply just, I mean, obviously, same day wouldn't even have been possible before because the tag wouldn't have made its way back in here. Previously, the tag would come in and then go in for review from our director of operations and then eventually get put in a box upstairs that the PM would have to go and grab. Now, when a tag's completed in the field, right, the PM is already assigned to the job on Clearstory. They get an email notification, hey, a new tag's been created. They can pop in there, see what we've got. Oh, we got 16 hours today, right? We got 30 bags of floor prep material, whatever it is. We're going to price it out and we can send that off the same day. The percentage of tags on a project that we're not able to bill for, we had estimated that, right? It's not a firm number on the current, but when I started with Clearstory, they asked me, you know, how long, I mean, what percentage of tags do you guys think that you don't eventually get paid on? That number was 15%. We are able to track it now that we're utilizing the software, and that number's been down to 2% since we've started working with them. Average time spent per week managing the COR process. This is across the company. We had it at 40 hours, and we've got it down to 6. The time in the field, creating the tags, that's the same for our guys. But in the office, the amount of time that it saves for our project managers is more than I had envisioned, right? Because you can preload your labor rates, you can preload your material rates. So when you go and you're pricing out a tag, it's all already kind of there for you. And so our PMs and, you know, everybody's kind of resistant to change. People who are like, what are you asking me to do here? Were very, very quickly on board once they started pricing stuff out for themselves. And then sort of the expected time for us to do the work to getting paid. We've taken that from, you see, we had estimated at 5 months previously. And that's because it would generally take us, you know, at least a month, oftentimes 2 months to really get everything organized and prepared to the GC in a way that they were willing to kind of accept it and move forward with. And then you sort of have your normal turnaround time there to us basically getting those approvals immediately in most cases and just kind of being on a normal, 2-month cycle to get paid.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we hear the word peace of mind a lot, right? John having the ability to, at any time, go into his jobs and see what's happening live in the field or live, what his project manager has sent across and making sure that it's getting to the customer fast. So these results are amazing.
Yeah, and if I can, real quick, Greg, if you don't mind, just to that point, sort of, from my perspective as the CFO, working through our open jobs every month, going through work in progress, the ability for me to just log into the software and view any job and understand what we have going on from a change order perspective has changed things tremendously. Because previously, it was, if I was lucky, maybe the project manager was dropping, their CORs in a shared drive and I could go access it and sort of do math on my own and add stuff up and be like, okay, here's what I think we're tracking towards. At the end of the day, really, I would have to bug every project manager constantly about, hey, this job looks like the margin's getting a little tight. Do we have change orders out there? Right? I was just asking that question nonstop. Do we have change orders? Do we have change orders? Do we have change orders? And now I can just log into the software, jump, doesn't matter. All our jobs are in there. I have access to every single project manager and can kind of answer a lot of those questions for myself. So it saved me a lot of time too.
Yep. And we'll just go a quick high level framework of how Clearstory works. And we'll send some resources out after this if you're interested in seeing a more in-depth demo. But it all revolves around a shared collaborative change order log. So the easiest way to get going, if you'd like, is don't change anything the way you're creating change orders. Simply, instead of emailing it to your customer, upload it to Clearstory and share it to your customer that way. And what it's going to do is generate a live change order log with your customer. Also gets you out of the need to constantly manually update like an Excel change order log. Just by doing that, your GCs don't have to, and your customers don't have to create a Clearstory account. It's still going to have a live kind of web-based link that they can access your log at. It's really meant to be agnostic of what accounting system you internally use. So you'll be able to match it up against your accounting system, against PCOs or your change order numbers. But we work with a variety. All the flooring subcontractors we work with use a variety of different internal accounting platforms. And there's a few workflows that will funnel into that change order log. Obviously, the most probably top of mind for flooring trade is T&M work. So we have a mobile app that you can fill out time and material tags on the mobile app, or you could do it from the computer. And it allows you to document labor, material, equipment, add photos to the work. And then you have two options for getting signatures. They can sign it in person in the field, or you can request a signature and it'll send them a link to review and sign or reply to that T&M tag as well. Like John mentioned, the nice thing about this is for the field guys is once they do it, they're done with it, right? They don't have to spend time or effort scanning it or emailing it back to the office. Your team's going to see it in real time. And then, you can preload your labor, material, equipment list into there. So typically it's nice for the field guys as well, where they don't have to type or manually enter much data as well. And then you're going to see that back in the office in real time. If you've ever taken a stack of T&M tags and priced it, it can be very time consuming and very manual. So we really took that process and automated it where we could. So you can take a week's worth of T&M tags, a month's worth, click a button and it'll compile everything for you. It'll bring in your rates and get the change order ready. And the whole goal is get this ready to send to the customer faster. It also updates your change order log when you do that. So there's some time savings there of not having to manually update a log each time you do a change order, update a change order as well. And then, obviously you're going to have change orders that aren't T&M related. It can house all those as well. We have easy to use templates where you can do lump sum change orders and attach takeoffs, or if you just need to pull in your labor, material, equipment rates and attachments, you can build your change order that way as well. So you can always start without that if you just want to start by getting all your existing change orders into the log, or upload a PDF, and then you can see if the templates, I'd say 80-90% eventually use our templates, but it's kind of at your option if it makes sense for you guys as well. So wanted to quickly just do a high level workflow of kind of how Clearstory works. And then I think we tried to wrap it up to give at least 5-10 minutes for Q&A. So wanted to pause and open it up for any questions.
All right, great job, Greg and John. For the members, there is a Q&A tab at the bottom, so if you want to add to that. I do have some questions for you guys here. First of all, we have 63 participants, so John Raleigh is a big draw. So thank you, John, for being on this call here, or a Zoom here, or webinar. Implementation question was, who would you recommend to be the champion in a contractor business, John?
So I will say for us, it was me. And I would just say for any business, it just needs to be somebody who, A, obviously believes in what you're bringing in, and then B, just sort of has the, for lack of a better word, stick-to-itiveness to sort of drive that home with everybody, right? So I guess the key there is it does need to be somebody who's in a position to be empowered to sort of hold people accountable for what you're asking them to do. If you have it be sort of a project engineer who you think is good with technology and you kind of appoint them to oversee it for the company, but then they don't kind of, have the influence to sort of get everyone where you need them to go, that might be a struggle point.
Okay, that's a good answer. Another question here that came in. How does it work on the GC side? What is it they do? What if they do not have Clearstory? So that's probably for Greg.
Yeah. Yeah. When you submit a Clearstory through Clearstory or share it through Clearstory, the experience is going to be similar or the same for a GC as if they were getting an email with a change order. The big difference is it'll give a live link to your change order log as well. So the GCs don't ever have to create an account. They have an option to if they'd like to. A lot of GCs do because they At that point, they don't have to worry about going back to this email ever. They can just access your live change order log at any time. They can give you review comments, markups, and back and forth through Clearstory as well. But they don't have to. They're still going to get a PDF attachment when you share a change order to the GC as well.
Okay, so I think that also answers another question that says, how does the GC interact with things sent to them through Clearstory? Will they need to log in or will they simply get an email? So,
Yeah, they'll get an email. They don't need to create an account. They'll have access to a live change order log. They'll have access to that particular change order or T&M tag, and they don't need to create an account.
okay. A question was, is this the same program as Extractor, Extracker?
It is. Yeah, we did a name change a year or two ago, but exact same program, just a simple name change.
Okay, all right. And then how do you get signatures from the GC person for approval?
Yeah, so there's two options. If you're out in the field on your phone or tablet, they can review and sign there in person. Or you can click send for signature, and then it's going to email them. Again, they don't have to have an account. They can open up that link from their computer, from their phone, and review and sign there. The nice thing too, GCs, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the classic like rubber stamp that GCs will stamp on tags. GCs can also set that up if they'd like to have like terms and conditions or verify hours only or something to also appear with their signature on the T&M tag as well. But any tag they can do notes, comments as well.
All right. There's something about the software would not work with having sub of sub or secondary sub working under them. Does that make any sense to you? I'm just reading as I see it.
So the system is meant to be where you can use it, upstream with your customer, or if you have lower tier subcontractors that you'd like to track, have them submit change orders to you or T&M tags to you through Clearstory. So we do see that, especially, if you're struggling to manage change orders or T&M with your lower tier, you can also invite them to Clearstory and they can, communicate change orders or T&M to you that way. You can also use those and roll them up to your change order to the customer. If you go a tier beyond that, which I think the question may be, there's options. I guess I'd have to understand the question a little more. Usually it's like one tier below and one tier above is the main use case we see it.
Okay, so this one might be a little tricky on the fly here, but can you show on the screen here an example of what the GC receives? I don't know if you can maneuver something like that, but while you're trying to do that, maybe we'll ask another question, and maybe John can answer this one. Would you have an idea of what volume level where the Clearstory investment makes sense? Like, would it still make sense for a $5 million commercial flooring contractor, or do you feel it's, you need to be have X number of installers? Is it appropriate with companies that use subcontractors? Some perspective around that.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, without getting too much into Greg's space, the pricing mechanism is on a per user basis from within your company. So, to some degree, that sort of handles the volume question, right? It's not some super high threshold just to get into the software. So, if you only need a handful of people to have access to it, then your price point is going to be lower than a larger company. Sorry, what was the second part there?
Where it makes sense at what size?
Okay. Oh, the subcontractor piece.
Yeah, and the subcontractor piece, yes.
Yeah, so if you are solely subbing out your labor, I guess that's really a question for how you're currently managing the process of receiving T&M tags or change order requests from your subs in the field. We are all in-house labor, so I'm not 1,000% familiar with how people sort of manage that process. I know that you're potentially bidding your work out to a labor shop, and then they're picking it up at a price point. But presumably, if changes happen in the field, they've got to communicate that with you. So I imagine that still makes sense. But Greg, I'm sure, has seen that.
Yeah. Do you want to touch on that one, Greg, with the subcontract structure?
Yeah. And just to piggyback on John's point, we work with all different shapes and sizes of contractors, even below the 5 million mark. The pricing is user based, so it does scale up or down based on the number of users you have. And then can you reiterate the question on the tier?
I think, Greg, it was basically like if you are simply subbing out all of your work, right? None of your labor is in-house, you're hiring a subcontractor to execute all your labor. Does it still make sense?
Yeah, we see that with a lot of trades where, it's coming out of the labor hall or a sub-tier contractor. There's definitely ways to deal with that. We see a lot of subcontractors. You can set up like a few distinct users that they can just use out in the field on the fly. If you don't know who it's going to be and they, go out to the job and need to do a T&M tag, you can just give them the login information they need. Or if you are going to give them a company email address, or the company that you work with, the lower tier is consistent. We can set that up so they'll have access, whether who's going to be out there doing the labor or not. So they have the ability to create a T&M tag or create a change order that you can see.
Okay, that's an important one because many of our members do use subcontractors, and often the subcontractors that they use are people they've been working with for years. So it's the same contractors, job after job after job. So I don't know if you have an answer around that, but it would be interesting if you have a Starnet member who is part of Clearstory already that is exclusively or mostly subcontract. That would be a good example for you to bring to Carlsbad maybe and answer at
Sure.
that time. But that's a big chunk of our membership. We have both sides, like John's structure where they do in-house installation. A lot of times that's around the union. But there's also a very large portion that subcontracts everything, but again, with consistent subcontractors. So that structure would be important to look at from our groups. Okay. Do you have something to share on what the GC sees, or is that do they need to go to Carlsbad to see that?
No, I could flash it up for
Okay.
sure. Let me share
Uh,
my.
all right, great.
So it's similar to emailing over a change order. This is from a demo account, but you can see they'll get an email with the change order number, the change order title. This would be the job number, the customer name. And again, like they can just grab the PDF and open up the PDF, similar, if they were receiving an email. But the nice thing is if they click this link, it'll take them to the live change order log, right? And they can, if they have the option to either download it there or do comments or back and forth there as well. So I'm assuming, John, most of your team, the best practice is every time you send a change order, click the little button to give them the latest and greatest log at each time. That way, there's no confusion. They always have not only the specific change order you're sending them, but the log for that project at any given time as well.
Correct, correct. We have a handful of GCs who are already Clearstory customers, so it's self-explanatory to them. And then for the GCs that don't, utilize Clearstory themselves, it's a quick education piece right at the top of a job. Working with a PM from the GC side to just say like, hey, you're going to get this link every time, and you're able to click it, and you can just see everything we're carrying. You don't ever have to ask me for a log; it's always there. Yeah.
Okay, good. We did get a comment that you can work with this with subcontractors. It sounds like it can be a bit cumbersome when you're going from tiers 1 to 2 or 3 to 4 or whatever that is. But the comment was can be cumbersome, but the system is great for tracking CO and TM. So that's fee question. Is it a monthly fee structure?
Annual fee.
Annual fee. Okay. All right. Sometimes you need quick approval. John, how do you handle that? Like the subcontractor says fill, or the general contractor says fill in this trench, and you'll say it's going to cost $1,800, and the GC says the supervisor on site says I need to get approval on it, but I need that trench filled right now. Is that a common occurrence, or has that always been part of this world, and it really doesn't matter if you're writing tickets or Clearstory?
Yeah, I would say I would say it doesn't matter whether you're writing a ticket or Clearstory, you're able to do it on the spot, right? So our lead installer in the field has Clearstory on their phone. They have their account. They're already logged in. They just can pull it open, and if they need to do paperwork right there, and for some reason get sign off from the GC up front, then they can. More typically they're just going to do the work they're instructed to do, and then go to get that signed at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I'll actually piggyback. That kind of ties into another topic that's probably good to bring up is identifying potential issues earlier. So if they do direct Hoem Associates to do extra work, and they don't sign it, or they're doing a week's worth or 2 weeks worth, like John can identify that earlier and go have the conversation. If an executive conversation or a project manager conversation is needed, like, hey, you guys directed us to do this work, you haven't signed the tags yet, we need to price this, and really identifying to the GC, to have that conversation before you hit the GC or an owner with a month's worth of T&M work, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We best practices, we have our guys send those tags up every single day, even if they know that, if we know for the next 2 weeks they're going to be working on OT, and so we're just getting the OT kind of premium portion of the tag signed off on, we still encourage them to send it up every day, just so our project managers are getting that alert and they see what's happening, right? Because what you'd have in the past is guys are getting directed to do stuff in the field, and the project manager kind of knows tangentially from our end that, yes, we're doing extra work, but all of a sudden, 2 weeks worth of tags show up on their desk, and it's for 150 hours, and they have no idea it was going to be that much, right? And all of a sudden we're sending a pretty major change order over to the GC, and the GC doesn't have a concept of how much it was going to cost, right? So it has allowed our PMs to sort of see, like, oh, wait a minute, we're doing a lot more work out there, extra work than I understood we were doing. Let me make sure I talk to my point of contact, on the GC's end, and make sure we're on the same page here earlier, rather than just having everything and just being like, here you go, you owe us $25,000, and trying to explain that.
Yeah, excellent point. It's easier to get paid for 2,500 than 25,000. So,
and another thing to add on to that, like from the GC's perspective, most project managers' biggest fear is something's getting signed for that's going to show up as a surprise to them on the cost side. So one of the big benefits that we've seen with Clearstory is the folks on the GC or customer side, they're going to be dealing with the cost, are now getting notified and seeing this work being signed for in real time to make sure that they've got the costs, in a PCO or potential budget issue, and can have the conversation if they need to have a conversation about whether this is in scope or out of scope, but they're not letting an issue boil up for multiple weeks before they know about it or can address it with you as well.
Yeah, totally makes sense. John, I think this is a question for you. Clearstory runs as a separate system as we understand it. How does that integrate with the rest of your accounting software and your I guess, general technology? What does that look like? Is it difficult? Does it work smoothly? Comment on that, please.
Sure. So for us, I understand some folks might have a better system than we did previously of tracking their CORs, maybe within their accounting software. For us, CORs really existed sort of in the PM's individual worlds, and that they would be sending out those CORs, and they wouldn't touch our accounting software until we got that authorized change order, right? And that's actually still the case. So we don't carry a change order request inside of our accounting software. We just update the total value of the contract when a change order is approved. So for us, it's not a big difference on that front. But what's great about it, again, is that I have the visibility into every COR that exists across the company, instead of that existing independently within kind of each project manager's a world. Does that answer the question?
Yes, that does answer the question.
Yeah, and we do, if you're interested, we do have out-of-the-box integrations as well. Procore Financials, we just rolled out Autodesk Financials, CMIC, just different ones. So definitely you can check out on our website if we integrate with your current system. But we also work with hundreds of customers just alongside their accounting system as well.
All right. So this is great back and forth and additional here. I could almost envision John seeing change orders coming through his desk and fist pumping like every couple hours, like, yes, another good one coming through. Anyways, instead of banging his head against the desk when a piece of paper that was lost, and he realized he lost $10,000 there. But that's a cool system. So thank you, Starnet members, for those many, many great questions. Occasionally, seems to be a no-brainer investment, which Clearstory seems to be here. You have the opportunity to see them in San Diego. You'll have the opportunity to see them in Chicago on May 12 and 13 Tech Summit. And of course, Greg would love to hear from you right away to further talk about putting this into your business. But it looks like a winner for sure. And John, thank you for taking your time and sharing your success with them, with the Starnet members. And Greg, I'll give you the final farewell.
Yeah, no, again, appreciate the opportunity to present and the invite. And, at the end of the day, we're really trying to bring transparency and collaboration into the change order and T&M process, which can be a very siloed, almost adversarial part of construction or workflow within construction. So yeah, it's great to work with John and other StarNet customers and look forward to hopefully talking to a few more.
So, Greg, what would your email be?
My email is first initial G Seldon, Seldon at clearstory.build. And we can send, hopefully we can send a follow-up with the slides or information for interested parties as well.
Okay, G Seldon at clearstory.build. All right, got it. All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for this enlightenment, and we look forward to seeing you in about a month in San Diego. So this was a great webinar, and we appreciate your time.
I get.